What's up, fellas? Welcome to the Pete's Basement Show. For you guys just joining us, we are talking with our good buddy J.K. Woodward and Chris Kipiniak. Did I say that right, brother?
Yeah.
All right. We're good. I'm good with them Polish names, man. I live in Greenpoint.
Yeah.
So you guys have drawn and written this book, Behemoth, that we reviewed when the first issue come out several months ago. Now, it just finished?
It just finished its first arc.
Right.
You know, it's not, there will be more, but it's finished its first sort of complete story.
We basically compared this to X-Men with monsters, basically. Like, these people mutate into these, like, grotesque, hideous monsters, and they're scooped up by the government, and they're kind of... They don't really have a choice but to train with the government. Like, it's not quite as nice as the Xavier School.
I was going to say, it'd be the X-Men if Xavier hated mutants.
Right. These people, like the government people, are turning them into weapons because, well, fuck it.
Yeah. And the fact is, you don't have a choice but to train, but that's only if you're lucky, because most of them just get thrown in internment camps, and the ones that show a certain quality get to go risk their lives.
So, tell us more about this plot line, and where is it going afterward? The floor is yours, gentlemen.
Well, I'll start, James, if that's okay.
Yeah, you're the smart one. Go ahead.
James, you better be drinking right now. I know we can't see you.
Do you hear this?
Excellent, sir. Excellent. What you sipping on, son?
I made myself a homemade Manhattan.
Very good. I trust you have cherries in there.
Some bullet rye. It's a rye Manhattan.
Very good, very good.
On the rocks.
There's actually, from working with James, I realized that there's a way you can tell if he's drinking. It's if he's awake.
I'm awake.
Yeah.
I love it.
But so Behemoth, like you said, it's sort of a dark version of the X-Men in the sense that these mutated, grotesque creatures are sort of forced into being this group. And so that was sort of the high concept, the thing that we started with. But for our first arc, we went very first person and focused on one of the characters, this girl, Theresa, who at the beginning of it is starting to become a monster. She's already sprouted some, claws, and she's like, oh my gosh, what the fuck is happening to me?
And we didn't get to see in the first issue exactly what, her full transformation yet.
Exactly. So over the course of the 4 issues, she's transforming physically and mentally at the same time. The way when I said it was sort of a first-person comic, it's each issue is sort of from her point of view, and you have the perspective changing as she's becoming more of a monster, as her sort of mind becomes more bestial, and as she kind of loses some of her humanity.
And so these guys who are forcing her to train are not helping her.
Exactly, because they're sort of treating her, they're like, you're a monster. And so it becomes, and, they're just sort of appealing to that part of her and just trying to train her to kill and they're trying to get her to access sort of those more monstrous qualities.
Right.
Whereas she and one of the other monsters, Rex, are, making an effort to retain as much humanity as they can.
So how did you come up with the concept for this?
Well, the sort of very basic part of the concept came from DC has this sort of odd old war title called The Creature Commandos, which was a World War II book about soldiers that were surgically made to look like Universal movie monsters, which doesn't seem like the most efficient use of resources, but, they did it. And, a few years ago, I was talking to a Vertigo editor, and this was back when, Vertigo was still sort of redoing some DC properties. And I had this idea of doing, a sort of a modern version of the Creature Commandos, beginning from, using actual monsters as opposed to that sort of people that have been surgically enhanced. And that never really went anywhere. But I sort of kept the idea in my mind and refined it and changed it. And when J.K. and I met through a mutual friend a few years ago, we talked about some ideas, and this was the one that appealed most to him, and I think was a good fit considering his art style. He's pretty damn good with monsters, and also I think and again, James, tell me if I'm putting words into your mouth. this idea of doing it very first person and sort of showing how the perception is changing, I think also fit well with him, and I think was an interesting challenge for him to draw.
Well, so I think those were. It gave me a lot to play with too, because the visual style changes throughout each issue as the character changes, and there were a lot of tricks that we did utilizing Jesse, the letterer, where we're telling the story in first person. Even the lettering gets a little more chaotic as it goes along, as we're showing her mindset. And at one point, I actually did some hand lettering myself, and it really badly. But the idea was, as she gets more chaotic, the lettering gets more chaotic, the art style gets a little more chaotic, her perceptions get a little more chaotic. So we're kind of really showing her journey. We're telling the story of this world, but we're showing it through her eyes, through her journey.
I love the fact that it's really being seen through her eyes. I love the cover to issue 1, where it just kind of shows her in the middle. She's got a little bit of a transformation going on, but all of like the other creatures that are just kind of lurking around her, really, it makes her seem just so alone and scared, and she has no idea of the world that she's basically just been thrown into. Even though all of these creatures are basically her friends, she has, you wouldn't be able to tell that from the cover. But, beyond that, the cover to issue 2 with the fly is out of this world. What is going on in this issue that bred this cover? But this is like right out of a Jeff Goldblum movie. It's insane.
Well,
I have nightmares about this cover.
The idea of the cover, what I wanted to do was get the kind of horror, the juxtaposition of the horror and sort of the budding romance that was going on in that issue when she found basically her first friend. And Chris, you can talk more about the story, but that was the idea behind the cover. It was just try to best get every element of the story into one simple image and as minimalistically as I could. Chris, why don't you talk about what issue 2? What's happening there?
Well, just to agree with what I was so glad. I loved that cover design as well. It's terrifying, and just the idea of seeing their reflection in the eyes of this character, Link, who is the most enigmatic of the monsters, and in some ways the scariest, because you don't kind of know anything about him. You don't know, he's silent throughout the whole issue.
Right.
And you don't know, is that a choice? Is that because he just has nothing to say, or he's, playing his cards close to his chest? Or is it because he can't talk? And so you don't have a way to gauge whether he's more like Theresa and Rex, or more like Sanjay and Simon, sort of the two most monstrous of the monsters.
And we never really answer that. He remains a mystery. You have no idea what's going on in his head the whole time.
Yeah. Which is, again, something that I think sticks with the Theresa first person. She's learning about all of these characters as we are, so we don't know any more than she does. And as far as the story in that issue, James is absolutely right. There's this element of budding romance, which I don't think is any kind of spoiler, but not at
all. Not once you look at the cover of issue 3, certainly.
Yeah, exactly. You have these sort of young kids thrown into this, and anybody who's been to summer camp knows, that sort of romance always can't be, far behind. But
I was going to say prison, not summer camp, but yeah. Sorry.
We are all. I knew this would be the perfect book for James, because we're all shaped by our circumstances. But so the story in that is about, she has begun to settle into life in the kennel, which is sort of the word for the concentration camp. And as she settled into it, she started.
You're right. They treat them like nothing but animals.
Yeah, and I thought that was actually, that as a side note, I thought that was kind of that was something that I thought was interesting to. How do you relate to a monster if you're not going to just sort of be scared and run away with it?
Right.
If you're going to try to deal with it, I think it's helpful for them to dehumanize them. Because, this is such an unsettling thing that these people are turning into monsters. And we find out, very early on that nobody has any idea why this is happening or what causes it. And, it becomes easier for the people who run Project Behemoth to treat them the way that they do by dehumanizing them.
And that's revealed as to why this is happening, right?
That's not revealed. No, not in this arc. And and that's something that we may explore in the future. But I think, as of right now, I think what I find particularly interesting is sort of exploring the implications of that worldview and of the world. Sort of taking that as a given circumstance. I think, if we have 30 years of story, maybe we'll sort of explain that sort of deep mythology behind it.
Yeah, I don't really think it's necessary. It's just kind of like, listen, it sucks for you, dude. You're a monster. Deal with it.
Yeah.
And it's something I would like to hold off on, too, explaining it, because really what we do as humans is we tend to, when we're faced with a force of nature, we tend to try to harness it right away or use it, even before we understand it.
Totally.
And that's kind of what's happening here. So I think if you explain that, you kind of take that message away that we're screwing around with something we don't really understand.
That is absolutely right, and that's really well put. I sort of wasn't thinking about that as much, but that really did become a theme and become part of it. For me, there was also the element of, with a lot of sci-fi and horror that I like the most, there is that air of mystery behind it. You know what I mean? Like something strange is happening and the action is about how you're dealing with it as opposed to having it understood, because once it is understood, it loses a little bit of that magic.
It's not as mystifying anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, I get it now. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've definitely liked, a lot of books and stuff like that, book comics and movies and stuff where that legend part of it becomes a part of the narrative. But I'd prefer, to certainly leave that, for a while, if ever.
Without a doubt. Now, let me ask you, Jay, about the cover of issue 3 here. By comparison to the rest of the covers and the rest of the book, which is pretty colorful, this is probably your most subdued work on this entire venture. Popping up on screen right now for you guys, this is so not Casablanca, Gone with the Wind, bro. Like the whole scene with the light coming from behind them, like they're looking into each other's eyes and everything.
I think of it as Gone with the Wind meets Apocalypse Now.
Nat, are you still working in the same medium for this book as you do in all your others?
Well, with the covers, I'm working in gouache and doing the same kind of painted style.
Which is what we're used to from you. Guys out there in Pete's Basement Land, if you're not familiar with J.K.'s work, I highly suggest you pick up Fallen Angel, if only because your favorite podcasters make an appearance in that book. But not to go and plug the show that you're already watching, but nevertheless.
Never hurts to show up your face.
Does not. J.K.'s paint style involves using gouache, which if you're not an artist, gouache is an unholy medium that is kind of a mix between watercolor, oil paint, and acrylic. It blends like oil paint, it streaks like it's watercolor, and it dries as fast as acrylic. So you've basically got to be out of your fucking mind to want to use this.
Yeah. It's made directly from Satan's bile.
I don't doubt it, bro. I've used gouache like twice, and I'm like, this fucking sucks. I can't deal with it. And I had teachers, bro, that would like deduct points if you shit streaked. And I'm like, how do you not make it streak? I could pour the fucking tube onto the canvas and it would still streak. But go on, brother. What did you do for
it's a complicated medium, to say the least. But it gets the job done like no other medium once you master it. It's why it's used a lot in design and before computers. I mean, all your billboards you saw in the 50s and 60s, those were all gouache paintings and just kind of blown up.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But what I did with issue 3, the cover, back to that, is I did that completely in ink. And digital color. And that's how I did the interiors, by the way. I did ink wash for the interiors in digital colors, which is something new for me, but it still kind of has a painted look.
Right.
Because I used a lot of water with the ink. Did a lot
now, you used to do black and white gouache instead, right? And then color it digitally.
When I first started in comics, I did that out of necessity. Mm-hmm. And that was basically because gouache is not a cheap medium to use either. Not. So
it's also as expensive as oil paint. PB fans, it's not. It will break your bank.
Yeah. So I would just use black and white, and I would colorize digitally because it was cheaper, and I would actually work on Bristol board which doesn't get as good results, but it was cheaper. Now I work on 100% cotton paper, which holds the gouache a lot better, and it helps with that streaking problem if you use that paper. Yeah, for this, I wanted to have a little bit more. I wanted to minimalize the reality of it a little bit and get to do a little bit more in expressionistic and impressionistic kind of stuff. And I felt like I could accomplish that more with ink and digital colors. So I kind of went in a new direction with this. But a lot of people have told me it looks similar to stuff I did, but I think I had a little bit more creative freedom with the monsters by not being kind of locked down into the sort of photorealistic style I've used before. Right. And I can break away from using reference a lot and give it a lot more kinetic energy that you really want in comics.
I think it's this is probably my favorite cover of the lot, and I really do like covers 1 and 2 as well. But it's so minimalistic. You accomplish a lot with very little.
Just a silhouette.
Yeah.
It's just a silhouette. That's all it is. It's literally black and white. There's a very little gray tone in it. And you know what inspired me to do this was the cover of Dave Sim did a cover for Church and State, the actual volume of Cerebus.
Okay.
And it was just Cerebus on the bottom, and he was walking across these rocks that were in the shape of these sculptures and stuff. And it was just, he used a very small piece of the cover, and the rest was all black. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was one of the most attractive, elegant covers I've ever seen. And this was my version of doing that. Basically, I wanted to latch on to what he had come up with probably like 20 years ago. Right.
It's a complete departure from your cover to issue 4 here, which is popping up for you guys. Which I mean, the cover is phenomenal, and the yellows and oranges are very, to me, reminiscent of like an Alex Ross when he was doing Dynamite's covers.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
But the way I guess we could like spoil this for the fans. This is Theresa mutated fully, right?
Yeah. This is the as far as we know, it's the end.
So product. Far, so good. This is where she
changes in every issue, but she really changes by the last issue, and it's actually the last panel of issue 3 is where you first see it. So that's why I felt safe to do this on the cover of issue 4, thinking for the people that were reading along.
It's a great cover. I have to say, she just the pose and like the armor and everything. It looks like she just got sent down by Lord Zed to fight the Power Rangers. Like she's about to fuck everybody up.
It's so like fulsome and like dramatic, and with the fire and the pose and everything like that. Like it is so unbridled. That's one of the things that
Well, there's a subtlety in there too. I don't know if you noticed, but Major Rain's eyes are in the mushroom.
I was going to get to that. I was going to ask you to, kind of describe what exactly. Like he's obviously the bastard of the entire ordeal, and he's kind of looking at, for lack of a better term, this creature that he helped to create that, without a doubt, hates his fucking guts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea with that cover was I just wanted to incorporate what was happening in the scene. There was the big ending without spoiling it.
Spoilers, guys. We'll pick up the book.
But also I wanted to include Rain in there because he was the guy pulling the strings to this whole thing from behind the scenes.
Right.
He was behind a monitor the whole time where all this was going on, and while this character was in torment. And of course, I wanted to reveal the newly mutated monster as she appears. So that was kind of the idea behind the cover. But Chris, you can talk more about the issue. If you can
I was going to say that one thing, when you put all 4 of those covers together, the designs are so different, and in the same way that that her perception and she's changing over the course of it. But one thing that I love with the covers is they're like big milestones and big markers of these sort of vast sort of emotions that she's feeling over the course of the transformation. There's the loneliness that is really encapsulated in that first one. The second one is that the sort of her and Rex reflected in the eye of this other enigmatic monster in the midst of this very sort of horrible looking thing. There's sort of adjusting to the new world. Then there's the sort of budding romance of number 3, and number 4 is just the culmination of all of this, and it's every sort of everything that was sort of holding her back or is sort of subsumed by this much stronger feeling that this emotion that she's sort of showing on the cover, that kind of rage, and just that design, like James had said, of having Rain's eyes in the background. I thought that's just such a great design element to encapsulate the theme of how her identity is shaped not just by the way that she's physically been transformed, but the way her mind has changed, but how she's been treated throughout the book, how she's treated, how she's viewed by others. I think that was just a masterful, great design choice.
She's basically at this point embraced the monster. And she's like, all right, this is who I am. This is what you want. This is who I'm going to be. But it's
but of course that has a potential threat behind it as well.
Certainly,
between the fire and everything, can you control this thing that you've created?
Right. I'm not going to be what you want me to be. I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to even turn against you at the moment, this very second I have an opportunity.
Right. Well, like as James was saying, sort of issue 4 is the culmination. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's, again, she's physically changed very much, and there's also a huge sort of emotional change, and what she does.
She got to where she was heading the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Basically.
And so again, I don't want to go into too much
I don't want to spoil
specific
too much
detail
for everybody.
That becomes sort of the culmination of that, and it's also where the team itself, like I said, where they're a team of soldiers, made to do these sort of suicide missions, and this is when they're on their first one, showing, and that plays a part in it.
So now, where can people get a hold of this? Were they to take an interest, which they obviously are doing because they're watching this?
It's a digital-first comic,
right?
Published by Monkey Brain, monkeybraincomics.com.
So this is only a digital book, guys. You have to go and download this. Now, you guys are available on Comixology, too.
Absolutely, yes.
It downloads into the Comixology app, basically.
Yes, I mean, you could even go directly to Comixology and do a search for Behemoth, and it would come up.
So your best bet, guys, is go on monkeybrain.com and do a
monkeybraincomics.com.
Monkeybraincomics.com and do a search for Behemoth that way.
And it's worth mentioning that that Monkey Brain Comics was started by Chris Roberson, comics writer Chris Roberson.
Yeah. Creator of iZombie and
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And it was a project he started when he went. For a little while, he got disenchanted with some of the superhero titles he was writing, and just decided to do his own thing. Yeah, and I guess he's back doing. I don't know what he's doing now, but he's back doing some mainstream titles. But basically, this is the creator of iZombie. He started his own digital first publishing company. So it's almost like a digital image. Mm-hmm. It's the same. Yeah. It's the same model, just for digital.
I'm actually looking forward to getting further. I've explored Comixology a little bit, just with having it on my phone and everything. But I find my phone does not lend itself to comic books well at all. So I'm actually looking forward to getting my first iPad for myself this Christmas. So I'll be able to explore the Comixology app a little bit further and get into a bit more of the digital stuff.
Well, they have a thing called guided view for your phone, so it'll show panel by panel. But it's better if you have an iPad. That way you can just turn the page.
Right. Yeah. And some books don't lend themselves to that panel by panel because they've got some of the artists break panel with those full page spreads, and then there's little panels scattered about, so you don't kind of.
And we totally
get that full effect. Yeah, you guys do that all the time.
We do. We did a double page spread in 2 of the issues, so that's.
So you'd lose that on the phone, unfortunately, but a larger iPad would be much, much more dynamic.
Yeah, iPad or computer. Yeah.
So, any plans for the sequel?
Yeah, actually, we were talking just what was it, about a week ago? Maybe I'm not great with time.
But
everything is the other day, bro. Just go with the other day.
Just the other day, we had a phone meeting.
Just the other day, we had a phone meeting and a really productive one. And Volume 2 is going to be really exciting. I think we're looking forward to, we have definitely some ideas, and looking forward to changing up the rhythm and changing up sort of the perspective of the book.
And also developing more than one of the characters that are going to go on from this. There's one of the characters that only basically just got a few panels in each issue. Dr. Seligman. We're gonna do more with her. We're gonna do more. Of course, Rain's gonna be involved.
Now, would you look for more of an omniscient narrator type of view, or do you want to like take it from another character's point of view, the way you did with this first arc? Or is that just kind of up in the air?
As of right now, who knows what can change. But it's not so much that I think that there'd be an omniscient narrator, but I really do think it would be sort of a bird's eye view of the group. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you'd be getting...
I think it'll be... We talked about this on the phone, being more ensemble about this than singular person.
Right.
So it'll be a different view of the same world with some old characters and some new ones.
And one more question, fellas. Any ideas of going to print with this at all? Some people are, very much against the whole digital thing. Some people simply don't know how to use them because they resist change on like a molecular level.
Like my mom, for example.
Exactly.
Well,
just to name it.
I'll say this. That is always the end goal, I think, with anybody that does digital. It's the reason we call it digital first and not digital only. Okay. So that is something that we want. That is something that we're working towards, and that is something that we can't say for sure just yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Still working on that. But yeah, of course that's the goal. Yeah.
Certainly. Cool, man. Best of luck with that. Do you any ideas of like selling prints of these, J.K.? People might be interested in them. And I mean, if they're digital, you could print them out and sell many. Just a thought.
You know what? Yeah. Well.
See, and you thought I was just another pretty face.
I know. Let's say if I decide to do that, maybe they could look for the link on your website.
Perhaps they could.
For example.
Yeah.
For example.
So we actually have a couple of prints of yours that you were kind enough to send us for giveaways and stuff. So maybe we could do one right now. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool.
Am I disqualified?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah.
And also all of your family and friends.
Well,
it's nothing personal.
I don't have too many. I don't have many. So.
But Chris, if you happen to have a question about Behemoth handy that you can throw out to the Pete's Basement fans, we could have the reward be one of J.K.'s paintings that he was kind enough to give to us, and we can make that the trivia question that they have to answer correctly in order to win it.
This is a really subtle one, but it might even be too subtle that there might be. There is.
You may have to actually read the book.
Yeah. That is the goal overall.
What is the name of Theresa's brother?
There you go, folks. What is the name of Theresa's brother? She is, of course, the main character that we've been talking about. She's the girl on the cover of issue 1, and she's the girl, whatever, on the cover of issue 4. So go out, pick up the book on Comixology or on monkeybraincomics.com, read the book, send in your answer to questions@peachbasement.com. Let us know. You can title that Behemoth question, and whoever answers the question correctly, we will do a drawing. And what do you think? 2 winners? Figure?
Yeah.
We'll do the first 2 people? All right, sounds good. So the first 2 people that we draw your names out of a hat, you will win a print from J.K. He's already pre-signed them because he's swell like that. Yeah, no, he's good. And this will be the Pete's Basement first contest for the new year. So you guys will have the honor of winning the Pete's Basement Season 9 contest number 1.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool. Season 9, bro.
Congratulations.
How do you like that?
That's like you were doing podcasts before they were...
I didn't know what a podcast was. I'll tell you right now. Roger had introduced me to it. J.K., when did you first appear on the Pete's Basement show? You remember?
I think it was when I first moved to New York, and I think it must have been around 2009 or 2010. It was
like just the other day.
Huh? Just the other day. It was just the other day. I saw a piece on you guys on the news. Somebody had done on the local news had done a piece on you guys, and I was like, oh, I got to contact them and see if they want to come to my studio and film or whatever.
And guys, the best part about it was like, as soon as we got there, we're like, yo, you want to do a stupid bit? And J.K. was like, yeah, absolutely.
Stupid bit's my middle name.
Dude, it was great. And I mean, we've had so many adventures from there on in. We miss you out in Cali, man. We do.
Yeah.
With any luck, I'll get to the West
You're the one
Coast.
thing I miss about New York.
Not the
I don't miss the rent.
You're busy over there putting pineapples on pizza, you crazy bastard.
Ruin a perfectly good pizza that way.
Seriously, he does. He just won't listen to reason.
I will say this because I don't know if you saw the picture on Twitter, but we did find a place called New York Slice in Seal Beach.
You were telling me about this.
Yeah,
yes.
And it's owned by a Brooklynite. So he moved out here and opened a pizza place. It's the only place I can get like the pizza I'm used to from there.
That's why there's pizza out here. Water in, bro.
Huh?
He probably flies the water in.
Yeah.
That's the key, man. That's what makes the mozzarella so stringy. Is you got to have the right water.
I specifically ordered that today, though, just for the show.
Yeah, I know you would. You bastard, you.
That bourbon. If I'm not drinking bourbon and eating pizza, then it's not Pete's Basement.
We love you, brother. Guys, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete.
Had a good time. Best of luck with Behemoth Series 2, Volume 2. Looking forward to it. Let me pour myself one more shot so we can do a little salud.
All right, I'll drink to that.
Here's to all the best in 2016, fellas.
Happy holidays.
All the best and best of luck. I want to see Volume 2 and review it on the show Lickety Split like.
All right, you'll be the first to see it.
All right, guys, back to the rest of the show.
Pete's Basement is copyright 2015, Ripped Productions and Pete's Basement LLC. All rights reserved, so go fuck yourself.
And what I would say to do is bring up this guy so you can see the artwork here.
Okay. Is this what's being recorded on screen?
No, you're being recorded.
Oh, me?
Yeah, so you can hide this one and just keep that up next to the thing so you can see the artwork.
Ah, okay. This is the only piece of artwork I'm going to see?
No, the whole thing is open. So hide this one.
Yeah, there's a shitload of it.
These guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
I just assumed it was like from, Temple of Doom.
No. Oh, chilled monkey brains.
Yeah.
I forgot about that guy. I did.
That's good eating.
Yeah.